What's going on, guys? Justin Conroy, Financial Dad here, and today I want to talk to you about what good financial goals look like, because whether you're a teenager, you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, or beyond, without good financial goals that fit your situation, your finances and net worth will most likely remain stagnant. And when it comes to building wealth, having good financial goals and knowing how to set good financial goals can be the difference between retiring wealthy and working for the rest of your life. So in this video, I'm going to teach you what good financial goals look like, and I'll teach you how to figure out what your goals should be. So with that, do me a big favor and smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm, and let's go ahead and get this started. When it comes to knowing what good financial goals look like, we need to make sure we've got a few things in our mental toolbox. First, we need to understand what good goals look like in general. And for that, I'd like to draw from the business world and teach you about SMART goals, which is a philosophy that we use a lot in business for setting business goals, as well as professional development goals. If you've never heard of this before, SMART is an acronym, and SMART goals are commonly associated with Peter Drucker's Management by Objectives concept. There's several different interpretations of what each letter in SMART mean, but my favorite, and the one that I feel best fits personal finance, is where SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. So, how can we apply SMART goals to understand what good financial goals look like? Well, let's take a look at an example of a bad financial goal, and then use our SMART philosophy to turn it into a good financial goal. One of the most common statements I hear when talking about financial goals is just simply, I want to be rich. And the problem with I want to be rich is that it breaks almost all the rules of our SMART criteria. Let's start with the S. I want to be rich isn't specific at all. What does rich even mean? I mean, if you asked a room of 100 people what it means to be rich, you'd probably get 100 different answers. So what about the M? Is I want to be rich measurable? I mean, by some definitions of rich, it very well could be, but honestly, rich isn't specific enough to warrant any kind of measurement. What if your definition of rich is more related to happiness? Is that really measurable? What about the A? Is I want to be rich attainable? Again, we aren't really being specific enough to say whether or not it's attainable. Let's say rich means billionaire in your eyes. Is that really attainable for you? For most of us, the answer would be no. What about R? Is I want to be rich relevant to personal finance? I think for most people it would be, but again, it depends on your definition of rich. Finally, what about the T? Is I want to be rich time-bound? Well, it definitely isn't. Are we talking about today, tomorrow, 30 years from now? Okay, so how can we improve this goal? How can we make it something that fits the SMART criteria? First, for sake of example, let's assign a dollar value to the word rich. Let's say that being rich means having a net worth of over $1 billion. So now our goal isn't I want to be rich, it's I want to have a net worth of over $1 billion. That's very specific. So we've satisfied the S in SMART. Let's keep going. By default, the M is already satisfied because we have a net worth of over $1 billion, and that's definitely measurable. We take the difference between our assets and our liabilities, and we have our net worth, so the goal is measurable. Cool. Next, we have the A. Is a net worth of $1 billion attainable? Well, yes. I mean, there's a few people in the world who have gotten there, and there will definitely be a few more out there who will get there. But I think for most people, it isn't very realistic. So let's adjust our goal down a bit. What if we instead say our goal is, I want to have a net worth of over $10 million? That's definitely attainable, depending on the time frame, which we'll come to very soon, and would still make us part of roughly the top 10% in the United States. Next, we have the R. Is our goal relevant to personal finance? In this case, it's a no-brainer, it definitely is. So finally, we have T. Is our goal time-bound? Unfortunately, no. So let's adjust our goal again. How about, I want to have a net worth of over $10 million in the next 30 years. So now let's double check. This is still very specific, very measurable, definitely attainable with slow, steady dollar cost averaging in the market, definitely relevant to personal finance, and it's time-bound. So we have ourselves a good financial goal. So let's extend this a bit further and apply it to our larger financial journey. How do we figure out what your goals should be? For that, I really like to start with the end in mind. I like to start with what's furthest away because that will help us develop our short-term goals so that they're aligned with our long-term goals. So let's start with arguably the most important financial goal everyone should have, and that is retirement. Now, yours may be slightly different, but for sake of example, I'm going to say that our SMART retirement goal is this. By the age of 65, I want to be able to stop working and live off my retirement nest egg for the rest of my life with a comparable quality of life that I have during the last year that I work. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it fully fits the SMART criteria. It's specific, it's measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. The great thing about starting with the end in mind is that it allows us to fully understand what our short-term goals should be. Working backwards from our retirement goal, we can ask ourselves, what is it going to take to get us there? What decisions do I need to make now to ensure that I can meet that goal? Now, this will depend on how old you are and what your current situation is, but with the end in mind, you can start formulating a plan of short-term goals. Because at the end of the day, a goal without a plan is just wishful thinking. Kind of like me hoping you'll smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Alright. So what can we do to ensure that we meet our long-term retirement goal? Well, let's keep working backwards. Retiring by 65 means we need to be investing our income for most of our working life, so we have to invest. Let's save that over here for a little while and I'll come back to it later. So we've got to invest. In order to invest, we've got to have a good source of income. In order to have a good source of income, we've got to have something that people or companies will pay us for. And for most people, that's going to be a job. So that's what I'm going to use over here, but there are a lot of ways to make money. Maybe I'll make a video on that one day. Anyway, in order to get a good job, you've got to have a skill set or education level that employers want, along with a whole slew of other soft qualifications. So for those, you're going to need some sort of education or experience. Now we could go further with this and add a lot more topics to this list, but for sake of keeping this video on the shorter side, I'm going to stop here and dig into things a little bit. We've collected a few big ideas over here: investing, income, jobs, and education. Keeping our main goal in mind, how can we formulate these shorter-term goals to support our long-term goal? Well, let's start with investing. How can we write a goal for investing that includes how much we need to invest and for how long to make sure that we hit our retirement goal? Well, it's actually pretty simple. We need to figure out how much money we need to retire and then figure out how much money we need to invest each year to make that happen. Those numbers are going to be drastically different depending on how old you are, but there's tons and tons of resources out there to help you figure that out, including a video I did a while back. Link to it up here. But a good general rule of thumb is that you'll need to invest about 15% of your gross income each year to retire comfortably. So we write our investing goal as such. I will invest 15% of my gross salary each month into my future retirement for a minimum of 30 years. Now again, this is just an example of a good financial goal. You may need something slightly different for your situation, but for now, let's go with this. Just make sure that your goal is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound, just like this one. Let's look at the next item, income. How can we write a good goal for this that's aligned with our overall plan of 15% investment of gross income and our ultimate goal of retiring at 65? Using the previous two goals, we can easily figure out what our income needs to be and by what age. Like before, your specific numbers may be different, but for the example case here, let's assume you do all the math and figure out that your income must be at least $45,000 per year by the age of 35. This means we can write our goal to say, by the age of 35, I need to make a gross annual income of at least $45,000 per year. Like our other goals, this is a great example of what a good financial goal looks like. It's specific, measurable, attainable, time-bound, and it's completely relevant to our big picture personal finance plan. This leads us to the last two topics we have on our list, a job and education. I'm going to lump these together for simplicity since they're very much related. What kind of education do we need to make sure that we can make at least $45,000 per year by the age of 35? Well, luckily for us, there's a ton of jobs out there that employers will gladly pay $45,000 a year for. After all, the average income of a fresh out of college 22-year-old with a bachelor's degree is $52,000 per year. So even if you're just average at the age of 22, you'll probably be in a good spot by the time you're 35. For our example, let's pick nutrition science as our major. Fresh out of college, payscale.com says these folks make about $45,000 per year, and that'll work for our purposes. So our goal will be, by the age of 35, I will use my bachelor's degree in nutrition science to get a job paying $45,000 a year. Like our other goals, this is good because it's specific, measurable, attainable, time-bound, and it's relevant to our overall financial plan. See, the beautiful thing about understanding what good financial goals look like is that they can tell you what you need to do next, and they can help you generate other goals that are related to your bigger picture plan. For example, we didn't talk anything about debt or budgeting or emergency funds, but they're all hidden inside those bigger goals. For example, how can we possibly invest 15% of our income if we have a bunch of debt? So if you have a bunch of debt, maybe you need a goal to be debt-free by a certain age. Or maybe that goal impacts how much you're actually willing to pay for college. Or how about this? How can we possibly be debt-free if you don't have a budget or keep a good emergency fund? Maybe you need a goal for those as well. So I challenge you to take this knowledge of what good financial goals look like and take a look at your life and what you're doing. If you haven't taken the time to sit down and think about what you want out of life, and in turn, how you're going to get there, I strongly urge you to do so. Goals that aren't specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, or time-bound are mostly just a waste of time. They're just wishes that will most likely never come to be unless you do something about it. So go out there and get it done. If you made it this far in the video and you found some sort of value in it, whether it be entertainment or education, smash the like button down below for the YouTube algorithm so that this video can be pushed to more people. Also, I post new videos about wealth building, money management, and personal finance every week, so be sure to subscribe for more content. Finally, if you're new to personal finance, be sure and click and watch the video on the screen right now because it will tell you everything you need to know about the basics of personal finance and get you started on your path towards wealth. Thanks for watching.